Hello and welcome to the Open Air Podcast. My name is Tabang Desai and I'm joined as always by Mr. Simon Bushell on Championship Sunday. The French Open is done. Simon, how are you?
I am doing well. We survived yet another Grand Slam, and I think the overwhelming emotion is probably relief having watched that men's final. That's probably where I landed on this one.
So full disclaimer, I did not watch the men's final at all. So it's going to make talking about it a bit funny. I didn't watch it for a couple of reasons. I had other plans, but also I was not sad about missing it at all for reasons that we'll get into, Simon. But I also did want to say, as we get into this, and we're going to talk, of course, about Iga Swiatek winning another French Open, pretty dominant fashion at length. But I did want to say, Simon, I think one of the things that I have done over the last 2 weeks, and I don't think it was wise, was kind of latch on to the people who were playing Alexander Zverev as if him losing to them would somehow right some sort of wrong or create some sort of justice in the world. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And I think to trivialize it that way, I don't think was fair to any of the people who have been affected by Alexander Zverev and what's happened over the last few years. So saying that, leading into the final, I didn't feel great at all about the circumstances and the scenario. And I'd watched a lot of the French Open over the course of the 2 weeks. To not watch the final, to me, didn't feel like a big loss. And I'm genuinely curious. I know our Discord, a lot of our friends had the same sentiment, but I'm genuinely curious if this was a thing that a lot of people felt, Simon, because I know we weren't alone.
That's a really interesting question, how much this penetrated the wider sports media. I think it was impossible to not, well, it literally was the case, right? When you were seeing write-ups of the court case that was ongoing whilst Alexander Zverev was making a deeper run inside of this tournament. So certainly from the press standpoint of how the tournament was covered, the two were kind of inextricably linked. That said, did it have wider cut through with the tennis watching public or the sports watching public that his trial was ongoing and he was still within this tournament? I'm not convinced, I've got to say. I think it probably didn't have a huge impact. I suspect largely the people that are most upset about this are people who pay very strict attention to the sport of tennis. This was not just a terrible look for the sport, but just a really sad episode all in all. And one of those things that I think we can be happy with the player that won this and latch onto that storyline, because I think it's a fantastic story that we're seeing this young phenom continue to do what he did, whilst at the same time accepting that tennis has got a lot to answer for this, and especially the governing bodies that run it.
Yeah. Amidst the reporting and the weirdness and awfulness of Zverev being in that trial as the French Open was happening, was people reporting on it and reporting on the Friday that he was exonerated, which wasn't true. Quote, this decision is not a verdict and it is not a decision about guilt or innocence. That's from the court itself. Quote, one decisive factor for the court decision was that the witness has expressed her wish to end the trial. So that is why it ended. It's not as if she was given funds, or as I saw some people suggesting due to some shoddy reporting. It was nothing to do with that. It was this woman deciding to end the case on her accord after going through quite a bit and through quite a bit of public rumor and speculation that involves her child as well. So I
would argue that's an important.
Yeah, we should put. I wanted to mention this off the top for a reason.
I think it's important to just hone in on that statement about the daughter in this situation, between the mother of the daughter here, because that was the thing that was really honed in on in the situation. Quote, the daughter was really suffering, so now they can both look to the future and get on with their lives. We ended this deal with the feeling that people should stop throwing stones at each other. I think it's one of those things that often gets missed inside of domestic violence cases, that if there is children involved in it, this can be pretty harrowing and a pretty difficult thing to go through, especially when you're having to appear inside of a courtroom often. Clearly, in the case, this was not the case with Zverev, but it is worth circling here because there were other lives at stake here. And it's just a an awful example of someone who holds power and who has money being able to wriggle out of a situation using that power and privilege to prevent justice from being served here. So just sad. Very, very sad.
So you watched this, Simon. Carlos Alcaraz has now won a slam on all three surfaces faster than Rafa did. I think a year and a half faster. I watched the Sinner match. I thought that was important for a few obvious reasons, but I think Jannik getting to number one this same week put extra sauce on that. What do you make of Alcaraz doing it at the French Open?
Incredibly impressed with him, just simply because he found a way to win when he was not playing his best tennis. I think that semi-final was circled by a lot of people, and I think everyone was really excited going into Sincaraz 10. I can't know what it is now. Something around that number anyway, isn't it?
Ooh, that's too many. What? How?
Is it 10? I think it's probably close to it. But that being said, this was a really poor semi-final. The quality was very, very bad. I think it got okay for a little bit of a spell in the fifth set. And I think realistically, the form of Carlos Alcaraz just did enough in this final. Zverev did not play well either. He had a lot of tennis under his belt going into the final. So I think neither semi-final and the final wasn't particularly entertaining. I'm glad the right player won. And I think, dropping all the other things aside of my own wishes of how this final would have gone, I think the right player did win this final, like just in terms of going for shots, going for more, playing the bigger moments, more, with more aggression and with a will to win in a way that I don't think Zverev showed. And I think the reflection on the final two sets being what they were with 1 and 2, I think was how the final ended. I think Alcaraz finished the stronger and deserved to win this title.
Gotta say, this tournament ended with a big ass whimper on the men's side, and like this, including the Zverev stuff, which is just a horrible look. Like Novak left injured, not quite sure how he's going to look for Wimbledon or the Olympics. A torn meniscus at his age we don't know. We don't really know. And like Novak staying healthy as long as he has, and he's dealt with stuff in the past. Like we talked about this, Bush. His health record is pretty remarkable, but this feels like a different animal. Like anytime with the knee, who knows, right? So he goes, Casper Ruud's stomach bails on him against Zverev, but he pukes his guts out. The top half decimated. And then, Alcaraz Sinner wasn't that great, like you said. Tsitsipas Alcaraz, ho-hum. Like, what was the match of the tournament here on the men's side?
Djokovic Musetti, I think, probably.
It might be, yeah. Honestly, Novak doing what he did against Cherundolo, now realizing that his knee was blown out, was also pretty remarkable. But yeah, which again, I don't know, like not great.
No, I think Alcaraz is not particularly fit. I don't think Jannik Sinner is either. Just add to some color to what you were saying. All the quarterfinals were straight sets, other than the walkover, and then both semis were rubbish. There's no two ways about it, and the final wasn't very good either. So I think basically from the quarterfinal onwards, it wasn't the greatest tournament in the world on the men's side of things.
Let's leave that there then. We'll talk more about some ATP stuff and parting shots. But Iga Swiatek, Simon, the match of the tournament on that side definitely happened long before the final. Iga Swiatek against Naomi Osaka in the second round was basically it, because after that, Iga did not look back at all. Dominant win. Her fourth in 5 years at this tournament. I do want to say something on the Osaka Swiatek discourse. A lot of people expected Osaka to just keep winning, after she won that, technically. Like, that was the assumption, I guess.
What do you mean, sorry?
If Osaka had won that match against Swiatek, she would have won, because Iga laid waste to everyone so thoroughly. I saw some sentiment, but I don't think that's true at all, right? Like, I think it would have been difficult for Naomi against Pliskova and anyone else going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think she would have got past the quarterfinal, if I'm honest. Just given it's hard to go to put matches together, especially when it's not on your favorite surface. I thought she played. We talked about that last week. I thought she played incredibly well, Naomi Osaka, in that second round, and I thought if she'd won that match, she would have been full value for it. That she's still not a great clay court player. Like and I guess I should clarify that. I think she is her heights and her peaks are exceptional. Like, she has the ability to beat any player in the world on any surface. I really do believe that. The problem is when you're playing on clay, you need a level of consistency across multiple matches in a row at a Grand Slam. And she clearly does not have that yet, or no match fitness to do it either, like playing on a protected ranking and still coming back. Yeah, I fully agree with you. I don't think there's a chance in hell that she would have won this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to paint a straw man here and say I saw thousands of people say that, but it was discussed, and it was discussed because we didn't have much to discuss really towards the end of this. And I don't mean that begrudgingly. I just mean that, like, Iga is ridiculous. Like, this is early Nadal-esque. I saw a lot of comparisons to Rafa in terms of what Iga is doing, and I think they're apt. She's not just a clay courter either. Like, I think obviously she's got a U.S. Open under her belt, and she's had an excellent year. Just looking at how Iga has fared in 2024. She won in Qatar. She won Indian Wells. She won in Madrid. She won Italy. Wins in Paris. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know we're running out of superlatives for Iga Swiatek at this point.
She's also miles ahead in the race as well. I think she qualified for the WTA finals already this week, and we're only just into June. She's world number one by several hundred points at this point. That race is done going into the second half of the season. I think, barring injury or barring something, an incredible loss of form, she's going to finish as world number one again. From that moment that she was down 5-1 in the second round against Naomi Osaka, she won 6 straight games. Then she won 4-2, love and 2, 2-4, 2-1. That is a just ridiculous run of form that is almost incomprehensible to have a player who is that good on this surface. She is not playing scrubs at all. During that run, she beat the world number 5 and 3 and 13. Like, it's astonishing. And yes, the superlatives, we are running out of them, but also at the same time, it is worth acknowledging that this player on this surface is truly, truly special. It's almost like, I'm just throwing this out here, the WTA and the French Open might want to market this a little better.
I mean, John McEnroe made a comment about Iga wearing makeup that made me want to vomit. I think it made everyone want to vomit. It's upsetting. And I did see some people say that, like, Iga prefers to play in the day, or some of the top players prefer to play in the day. And I hear that, but I don't think that was universally why Emily Mauresmo and crew scheduled things the way they did. I think it's because duration and some bullshit legacy stuff and sexism and idiocy all combined into one. Like, Zverev did not need to be on that many night matches. For who wants that? Please tell me who wants that. I'd love to see the market research if you've got it. And don't give me no Pew poll on that. Give me some actual data, please. The issue is, and I hate to bring up the men when talking about you, because I think it's a bit of a lazy thing to do. I mentioned Rafa already as well. But I think what worked for Roger and the men's game was that the other two guys came and started beating him and started pressing him and moving him off his mark and creating an actual rivalry. And I'm not saying Iga has been untouchable. She has not. No, but she's going to need a running mate in these finals to make them the epic, memorable ones that we all want and all crave and thirst over. And I know there are people who could do it. We've seen them do it against Iga. We've seen them do it recently in Sabalenka and Rybakina, and not Coco Gauff, which we can get into. But it was a bit too easy, I think, to really get the wider sporting world to understand, I think, how damn great Iga Swiatek is, if that makes sense.
Well, it shouldn't be, right? She's so dominant at this point. It's a pretty clear and easy narrative to follow for a player who is head and shoulders above the field on this particular surface. I think really the most fascinating question for the remainder of the season on the women's side is, will Iga Swiatek win Wimbledon? Is she going to be able to make that transition and win on that surface? Because she's very, very capable of doing it. I think it's one of the more fascinating things to watch for the rest of this summer, because I wouldn't be surprised if she is not the Wimbledon champion at the end of August.
We shall see. Shouts to her fellow finalist, Jasmine Paolini, who had an amazing week. Also has some Polish blood in her too. I think she speaks Polish fluently, which was cool. Beat Elena Rybakina in a truly confounding match. Super weird vibes all around, including Elena Rybakina yelling at her coach for speaking Italian while playing in Italian, which I get. And then you had Aryna Sabalenka lose to Mira Andreeva. Didn't look like Sabalenka was right there either. Coco Gauff is just miles away from Iga. Like, that matchup continues to be awful. How do you assess the rest of the group, Bush, after these 2 weeks in the WTA?
Well, I think possibly the easy narrative would be to circle Sabalenka and Rybakina falling in the quarterfinals for differing reasons, and to sort of make something out of their form. I think I'm more interested in just saying Mira Andreeva is almost here, and it's going to be terrifying when when she finally arrives. If you're talking about a running mate for Iga Swiatek, just a reminder that Andreeva she turned 17 yet? I think right? Only just, and she was the youngest at this stage for a very, very long time. I need to check some of the stats on this. Some ridiculous number. I think she's the youngest semi-final in a while, right? Beat Coco.
Yeah, I think Hingis is the last one, 16.
Jesus, yes. So yeah, the Sabalenka stuff, she clearly was out of sorts, clearly ill, like everyone else in the field, right? Everyone else was not doing particularly well. Rybakina, that's an interesting one to scratch the surface of, right? Of not being all right in the camp, a rather bizarre press conference, maybe not the greatest of behavior either during that press conference, and then a loss to a player that, I shouldn't, Jasmine Paolini is a fantastic clay court player. There's no shame in losing to her, and her run to the final here is, on merit. But at the same time, for the world number 4 and someone who is, I think, expected to be among this conversation, you would expect her to come through that, and she did not.
She didn't. Iga's peers, for the most part, didn't hold their end of the bargain, and now Swiatek is on course for one of the better years we've ever seen on the WTA. She heads to the grass, like Bush mentioned. Let's see how Wimbledon goes. Let's see how the Olympics go. She'll be the favorite there as well. Obviously, I do want to shout out the doubles, Bush, at this tournament. We got a really, really fun final on Sunday. Jasmine Paolini was trying to win a final after losing on Saturday with her countrywoman Sarah Irani, but they lost to Coco Gauff and Katerina Siniakova in straight sets. That was a cool doubles pairing, Bush, and also something nice to see on this Sunday, considering the other stuff going on. I know you had the party shots, but I wanted to shout them out now.
I mean, what a tournament for Paolini to get to both finals. Yeah. She lost both, which sucks. It was a few years ago when Gauff did the same thing, so it's cool to see, and I guess as well to just sort of press on the message you were saying. Gauff's first Grand Slam in doubles as well comes with Siniakova, and I think that's 10 for Siniakova or Siniakova. I think 9 maybe. Anyway, it's a lot. It's a shitload to say the least. So good for Coco on that side of things. What a tournament for Jasmine Paolini! Incredible.
Siniakova has 8, I believe. 8.
Just the 8.
And Olympic gold. Be fascinating to see who she teams up with for the Czechs, because she will be one of the favorites in Paris for sure. Okay, we'll leave it there. When we come back to close up this week's show, it's parting shots. We're talking De Groot, talking more Novak, talking Eurosport. All of that coming up next.
Welcome back to Open Era. It's time for parting shots. Dev, De Groot, a name that we frequently talk about within the winner's circle, once again can add another to the very, very long list. 22 Grand Slam wheelchair titles. She broke so many records during the course of this. Her winning streak was finally ended last month at 145, just the 145. But during the process, she did overtake Esther Vergier for the most women's singles titles ever. You know, we touched on the fact that Iga Swiatek is a force in the women's game. Dida Groot is one of the most remarkable athletes going in the world today. Her dominance is almost unmatched in history, and it is one of those that is incredible to watch.
100%. I find it really cool that she took over the record from her countrywoman Esther Vergier as well. And I think there's more reading to be done on my part to figure out why the Dutch have produced so many successful wheelchair tennis players, because there's Dutch flags all over Bush, this list of champions from the French Open this year.
It's true. I think Oda won as well in the men's wheelchair as well. So just the phenom continues to go well here. Let's just transition to, you mentioned in the top of within the first segment about Novak Djokovic. He did undergo surgery for a meniscus tear. Noises out of the campus that he's going to come back and be ready to play the Olympics. Now, that sounds like bullshit. Definitely sounds like bullshit, but you never know. We'll watch this space on that one. This was a title that he does not have at the Olympic Games, and something that I clearly think he wanted.
Do you think he wants 8 at Wimbledon or Olympic gold more? That one last Federer record, I bet you he wants to get that one too. But I wonder now, like realistically, he's 37, the knee, like you can't mess around with the knee. Like you have to target the Olympics. You cannot be messing around trying to get ready for Wimbledon on grass. Like it doesn't make any sense. You have to go for clay and stay ready for Paris in a few weeks.
Do you think he's done?
I've counted this guy out way too many times, and like I found myself like genuinely willing him on in these matches as he was dying, because I think it's now actually getting close. Like I do wonder. A, he has all the records, so like who cares about that? B, his body's kind of like saying, hey, we can't really do this as much anymore. And like I don't think he likes losing to some of these, or like I know they're excellent players, and like they have to carve a huge path to get here, and it takes a lot of work. But like Novak shouldn't be losing to some of these players, and I think he thinks that as well. So I don't know. I'm less confident in saying he can beat anything now. Like I feel like the end is actually kind of close, which is kind of startling because he felt a bit invincible for a while.
It's crazy, isn't it? Even considering the last season, that he felt like an unstoppable force, and we fast forward 6 months from the calendar changeover, and we're at a very, very different time on the tour, are we not? With the new world number one in Jannik Sinner, on the men's side, I should say, and Carlos Alcaraz ascending to winning his third Slam title through a third different surface, and I think probably almost certainly has to be the favorite going into Wimbledon as well. Very different outlook in a very, very short space of time. I think he might be done. I really do, but count him out at your own peril.
Yeah. That Wimbledon 23 final, sliding doors moment, huge one. I think that's a huge moment for men's tennis.
Okay. There has been some great names in the world of professional tennis. We're going to add the name Kaylan Bigun to another one here, winning the junior boys title at the French Open. I believe he's a California native. I have never heard of anyone called Kaylan. Have you? Is this a Gen Z name that I haven't heard?
You live on the West Coast, don't you? This is the most BC coded name I've ever seen in my life. There's a Kaylan playing for the Vancouver Giants right now in the WHL. Check it. There's got to be a Kaylan. Poor naive Bush.
How many different versions of like Lan or Stun can we put into things? Holston,
Skylar. I'm impressed that you've made it this far without seeing a Kaylan in the wild. But yeah, man, they're up there.
I'm going to look at some objects on my desk in front of me and then add the suffix "lan" to it and see if there's a name. Deskston. Oh, sorry, Desklin. Desklin sounds like a name.
That sounds
like West Coast.
I'm pretty sure that's a name. I'm pretty sure that was the 4th prime minister of a country.
Penlin. There we are. Kaylan Bigun is his brother. Let's move on. Congratulations to the kid, by the way. Yeah. Let's touch on Alexander Zverev again, just briefly. Not on the trial, but on coin toss gate in the run-up to the semi-final against Casper Ruud. Did you see this? What did you make of this? Because it sure looked like he was lying.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like there'd be a part of me that's like, who knows? Like the benefit of the doubt in the heat of the moment. But no, this guy, good Lord, just confirming the priors. You know, and not to be flippant about things, this serious, but like who does that? I guess is my question. You know, like what kind of person does that? Why?
Just for context here, at the coin toss of the net, it is. I think, is it tossed by the umpire or is it tossed by the ball kid?
I think the umpire.
And then it bounces away. Zverev comes over and
grab it. Yeah, they let the player grab it. Zverev brings it back to the umpire. The umpire says it's racket, and then he asks who called. He said, "Oh, because Zverev called the other thing." He points at Demon Hour, and then Zverev says, "No, I called racket." When he's on mic saying ball. Or whatever the RG thing is on the other side. So yeah, just weird. It's pathological. No one likes him. He had like crazy. I saw some highlights, mostly screen caps of the final, in which he looks like a maniac. Again, who wants to watch this guy this badly to give him these slots? Like, what is happening?
I saw a compilation of things as well of him incorrectly pointing at. Line calling as well, ball marks during this tournament. This is the dude is acting like a spoiled 14-year-old playing his first tournament who's never actually been outside before.
I had a friend of mine message me during the match asking if I was watching, and I said no. Afterwards, I was driving at the time, so I was like, no, I couldn't. But he said to me regarding Zverev, he's the worst. He wins the point and turns and yells at his dad. Like, no joking, but we all know he did it because he's an effing psycho. Full text. I'm like, yeah, straight up.
Put in a few allegedlys in there, so we're covered.
Allegedly, again, but, anonymous friend. Will not name them, but yeah, allegedly. Jeez.
Okay, let's talk about something more fun, which is Mira Andreeva's incredibly impressed or unimpressed or fake impressive impressed body language / youthful exuberance when it came to this new HoloLens holodeck projection thing that Roland Garros is. I think they've been that Eurosport's been using. I think this is year 3 or something, but it's the kind of thing where I think if I was looking back at it, I would probably just tell Eurosport to stop trying so hard. Like, this didn't really add a whole lot, and it kind of seemed ridiculous in the process. But it did give us a very funny moment of watching Mira Andreeva trying. I will give you the reading on here. Was she actually impressed or was she acting impressed?
No, when she said, "What a technology," I was like, yeah, like, I'm with you, Mira. Like, that hit. Is this useful? Do we need it? No. But does it look kind of cool? Yes. And I think for what we've seen the tech world churn out recently, this is way better than because there's a lot of new stuff that A, doesn't work at all, and B, is important. So that's the problem. Whereas this, I mean, it is cool. And if it impressed Mira, it's cool. So that's fine.
I am probably on the record in this podcast a few times saying that the tech industry's done. Like, they got nothing new. And this just seems like the long line of bullshit they keep churning out. So who knows? Speaking of bullshit, did you see the Rafael Nadal anti-AI post on Instagram as well? This was very, very funny. Quote, "I own the copyright to all images and posts submitted to my Instagram profile and therefore do not consent to Meta or other companies using them to train generative AI platforms. This includes all future and past posts, stories, threads on my profile. At Instagram, get rid of the AI program." You go off, son. You go off.
Take that, Sam Altman, or whatever the name of these AI people are.
Do you think Sam Altman's a bigger scam artist than Mark Zuckerberg? Like, the guy has done literally nothing of value and somehow is still being held up as this messiah. At least Zuckerberg made something. Altman's just a complete charlatan.
Oh, God. Do you think Rafa capitalized and here himself, or his lawyer did? Because the and in caps really, it really sent me there. I was like, okay, he's not messing around here.
Let me ask you a different question. Do you think Rafael Nadal knows what Instagram is?
Probably not. Yeah, it's true. He seems technologically challenged a bit.
Okay, let's round up parting shots before we get into 2 challenges remaining. Okay, so how do we want to approach this, Dev? Friend of the show, Discord extraordinaire, Patreon extraordinaire, Easy Ace Machine, wanted us to read out his way of saving tennis, I believe is the way that we want to phrase this. Should I let you do the honors, or would you like me to read out the entirety of it?
I want you to read it because you, I don't know, you have a nice way of saying things. I'll say, see, I couldn't even say that, but I do want to say, it shouts the Easy Ace Machine. The way this is written out has the kind of the vibe of a screed you find with like different magazine letters cut out, and you get it under your doorstep late at night. But no, this is it. This is cool. So check this out.
I'm going to try and do this justice, so please stay with me here. I'll go straight into the body because, otherwise we'll be here forever, and I'll do my best to do this justice. Okay, now that tennis has pulled its balls out of its own vinegar douche, which is just a wonderful way of starting. Hashtag for now.
Quote. You have to quote him. That's a quote. Okay, now.
That is not my quote. Although, given some of the things I've said on the show over the years, it might actually be. You'd be forgiven for thinking it might be. It's time to discuss the way forward, and it should be noted that the way forward is all capitalized as well. It's all done in proper nouns as well. 3 of 5 sets to 4 for men and women. This is not no ad. Its fast 4 is utterly different from what I'm proposing. Tie breaks at 4 all. You have to win 12 games to win the match, dude or lady or otherwise. The product would be incomparably stronger for ticket buyers and TV broadcasting. Longer minimum durations, unless it's literally a 4-all triple bagel. Shorter epic overtimes that ruin the whole court broadcast schedule. Fewer career/year-ending injuries for men who habitually go over the limits of never say die. Fewer ladies finals that are blitzed before they even have a chance to develop. Fewer chances to break back within a set. But if an Isner clocks 4 returns in 1, it's more okay for the fans, players, and businesses that he will. Oh man, this is tough to get through. Let's just keep moving. Epic win. The structural pay play inequality Discord will potentially receive a punishing rebuke, as it would turn out that most of the financial viability of men's tennis is largely based upon the guarantee of a fractionally longer minimum product rather than the raw dollars per miles per hour reward system. Okay, and there's the last section here. Each serve is worth 0.5 points. The 0.5 serve thing is huge. Easy to implement, except for a slight tinker to the scoring system, and makes tennis waste far less time, have far more playable points. A far better solution than slowing the courts, flattening the balls, and to infinity to slow the game. Well, so what do you want to start on this? I've said on the Discord a few times that I'm actually in favor of fast 4 tennis, and have done a complete 180 on the whole thing. How does this sit with you?
It sits okay. I mean, the serve thing aside, because I think messing with the scoring system remains a bridge too far for a lot of people, and I might tend to agree. But everything else, I love it. And I also think that the 5-set thing and seeing how it's being used as a cudgel by the tournament organizers and other people to kind of tell us what we want to see. I'm over it. We got to change. We have to change. So let's get this screed, this manifesto into the right people's hands, is what I'm saying.
I am very, very much in favor of going to 4 games. And I think maybe that is sacrilege, and maybe Roger Federer will hunt me down and say that that's unacceptable. I think something does have to give here, though. I really do. I don't think... And going to 4 games doesn't change anything. You still have the same scoring system. You can still have the same of everything. You're just having shorter matches and you're getting to more critical moments quickly. I think it's totally fine. I think it will help save injuries, and I think it will help be just a better experience for everyone involved.
All right, sir. 2 challengers remaining. You want to go first?
No. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I have a serious note. I mentioned him on this show before, but my father, someone who instilled my love for tennis, had been ill recently. He had suffered a stroke last October, and unfortunately, due to stroke-related issues, he passed away a few weeks ago. So obviously I wasn't on the show last week, so shouts to Priyanka and Simon for holding it down. Just people in my life have been so great and so lovely. Simon, you chief among them. But yeah, it's been a tough time. I'm definitely, I think, struggling still and like coming to grips with this new reality, and it doesn't feel quite right, and I'm not sure when it will. But I do know that tennis was something my dad and I loved, and I wondered how hard it would be for me to watch the French Open without him, and I just found myself thinking about him, but with a smile on my face, and just thinking what he would have thought and how much he would have enjoyed Iga. It's Naomi watching that match. I think you would have loved it. So yeah, I once again, thanks to all for the warm regards. And I think my pops is in a better place now. And I owe him thanks for making me love this sport, because it's brought me into the lives of a lot of people, including yourself, Simon.
I think we'll leave it there, Dave. I think that's a very warm summary of your father's life and his love of tennis. One question I would have, though, on this one. What would he made of? Who would he have liked more out of Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz?
You know, I think he's a Sinner guy. He was someone who liked the youngsters and liked the youngsters who could give the top guys a go, but also had a bit more maybe finesse and ability. I think Roger was his favorite because he had that grace, and I think Jannik was someone who was approaching that even in his infancy as almost a baby deer. But I think he was a Sinner guy who also was loving what Alcaraz was going to be. But I do love my pops. His tennis takes are hilarious, and I did think they rubbed off on me a lot, because like I think he was militant fed before I was, and then he softened and he welcomed in Nadal and Novak into his inner circle, people he liked to watch. And I think he kind of helped me move beyond my radical fandom a bit too. So we're better off for it, I think, because the show would have sucked, I think, if I just became a Roger truther. But yeah, we'll leave it there. For producer Greg on the ones and twos, thank you so much to him. And thank you to our Patreon members. We're on Discord, chat tennis all the time. Thank you, folks, for making the French Open and all the tournaments awesome. Truly love chatting with you in the Discord there, especially the last 2 weeks as I needed to take my mind off things, and I really enjoyed that place. So that's Simon and myself signing off for Open Era this week. We'll talk to you soon.